Welcome to the Discover Montcalm Podcast, where we're going to take a look at the communities, the businesses, the attractions, and the people that make up Montcalm County. Hello, my name's Duane, the host and producer of the Discover Montcalm Podcast. Today, we are going to go back and do a review over some of the great guests that we've had into our studio at this point. Let's take a look at episode number 1, where Phil Tower interviewed me on why I started the Discover Montcalm Podcast. Take it away, Phil.
I think it's always important to know what was the inspiration for this project.
Back in 2018, I started this as a documentary, thinking that Discover Montcalm would be a very in-depth look into the county, all avenues, and through 2018 to 2020, started a few episodes, interviews, that type of thing. But I was finding that funding was not the easiest thing to come by. And then we all know what happened in 2020.
We all do it, indeed.
So in 2021, Franz Magnus, who recently passed away this year from the Montcalm Alliance, was helping me look for funding. And then he passed away. And I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do with Discover Montcalm? And the idea came up with a podcast. I remember making a phone call to you, because I know that you've been doing podcasts for a long time, and you've been in radio for a long time. So I thought if anybody could give me some insight, you might be somebody that would do that. And you did. And you basically said, go, do it. And so I set off and spent the summer of 2022 getting together my episodes.
There are no shortage of stories for the Discover Montcalm podcast.
No, there is not. And the thing that I'm looking at is I want to unturn every stone, anything that goes along with it. Because I want to look at businesses, I want to look at people, I want to look at communities and attractions. And that kind of leaves me wide open to a lot of different things.
Do you plan to do a special episode or series of episodes on the history of Stanton, the history of Greenville? Because they're certainly rich and unique in their own right.
I hope over time I can hit every community and do exactly that.
Right.
I want to do the history, but I also want to, like yesterday, today, and the future. What's the future looking like in all of these areas? So yes, I definitely want to do that, because I think the more we know about our county, the more we can really appreciate what we have. To catch all of the episodes that we have on Discover Montcalm, go to discovermontcalmpodcast.com, click on the tab that says podcasts, and everything is right there. You'll get the audio version as well as the video version, which is on YouTube at Discover Montcalm Podcast. Episode number 2, we jumped into the Fighting Falcon Military Museum, where I had brought Bill Garlick from the museum into the studio, and we talked about how the military museum got started.
Well, the museum is quite an interesting place. It covers the military history of Greenville from the Civil War all the way up through to the end of our modern conflict.
Back in 2011, when I was teaching a 7th hour class at the Greenville Public School, the Jacket Video Productions, my class came in and we had an opportunity to interview Bill Daup. And I understand that he passed away in 2022. We're going to go back in our time machine, and we're going to take a listen to how the military museum had started.
The Fighting Falcon Museum got its start in the summer of 1993, when a lady named Laura Seek, who was the secretary to I believe the superintendent of schools, came to me in Belding, where I lived then, and said we would love to have a restoration of a original Fighting Falcon glider. And she said, I understand that that you had a lot of experience at Gibson Refrigerator when they were built. And I said, yes, I was a tool engineer on that project when it started in early April of 1942. We found a bigger building that we really needed out on the river road south of Greenville, owned by a man named Stan Jorgensen, who was a World War II veteran. And he said, you can use my building at no charge. And through the next 12 years, Eric and I and a small handful of people restored the glider that you see in the museum here today.
In episode number 3, we brought in Jody from Busy Bee, who not only provides us these wonderful cups, but also the attire that I'm wearing here, and she does so much more. So in episode number 3, we take a deep dive into how she started Busy Bee and what they offer.
So we are pretty much all things custom. So anything that you can think of that would be custom decorated, be it apparel, promotion items, coffee mugs. I mean, really the sky's the limit as to what we can do. Our biggest service that we do is obviously custom signs and banners along with custom decorated apparel. We also have sublimation services. When we moved to our new building, we got an AP laser, so we're able to do engraving, 3D die cutting, acrylic lettering. It's just brought a vast offering of services to our customers, and it's been such a blessing to us.
And embroidery.
And embroidery, yes. We do an excessive amount of embroidery. We have 3 machines that run constantly. Sometimes I think that would be good to have 3 more, but we'll get there and we'll work through this time.
You've got the new location so that you hopefully have a little room for growth.
We do.
And
Yeah.
that'll be fun. I know that you're working on some shirts for me that we'll be getting. Can't wait to be sporting those on the show here as we grow. So currently, how many employees do you have, and do they all do the same thing, or are they all kind of specialized?
They are all specialized. So right now we have 7 full-time employees, and we have 1 high school student that works as a co-op engagement. They all have their own roles, and they all kind of oversee and do their own thing. They all run and manage each department individually. I'm not a micromanager, and the staff that I have, they just step in and step up and take over, and honestly, they make my job a dream. They're just great to have.
In episode number 4, we talked with Adam Eller from the Carson City Village Market. Adam's dad started the market, and we could talk a little bit about the history over on that side of the county. So, let's take a look at what's happening over in Carson City.
Dad was commuting back and forth to Big Rapids, taking a full load there, still working 40 hours a week for $1 an hour. I mean, he was grinding for sure. And Wendy came to him with an opportunity, and that store in Muir had partially burnt, and him and some other guys invested and basically told Dad, hey, if you're thinking about a different career path, I've got this opportunity. And basically a situation where Dad comes in, gets things rolling, and then buys them out and gets his foot into the grocery world. So in a nutshell, that's where it all started.
And you basically got your education working right there.
Hands-on, I had a bunch of letters to play football and stuff in different, smaller colleges. And Dad gave me that opportunity. He said, you could go off and play some ball for a few years and take some classes. One of the best classes he said that he ever took still to this day is psychology. You're dealing with people every day and knowing how they think and employees and customers. So he didn't make the decision for me, but his other option was, or you could step right into the family business. And for me, I've never been that guy that can pick up a book and read it and take a test. I'm a I've got
Boots
to
on the
touch
ground.
it.
Gotta touch
I got to
it,
feel it.
Yep.
And so working beside him and watching him deal with, day-to-day stuff and, from every aspect of it and learning the trade. We're meat cutters by trade. And it was the best way for me to do it, honestly, in the end. And, I don't have any regrets towards it. There's no better way that I could have learned it than the way that I did, and dealing with situations that are real time, real life.
In your opinion, why should somebody discover Montcalm?
Discover Montcalm. I think there's just so much to offer. Being where we're at, centrally located like we are, I feel like we're kind of in the heart of all of it. I love our seasons. We have such a good distinction in our seasons, and all of the local, all the apple orchards in the fall are so fun, and all those kind of things, and good produce. We're just kind of in the middle of it all. We're not too far from the bigger, Grand Rapids. If you go there, and we like to do the brewery, the craft
And over
brewery.
by you, you've got Lansing, not too far. Mount
Lansing.
Pleasant, not too far.
Yeah, we're an hour, 45 minutes. We're kind of in the middle of all of it, and I just that's what I really love about it. Is just the location, beautiful area, a lot of ag. I have a family that farms. And it's just, to me, well, obviously it's home, and it always will be.
I'm not able to put this Discover Montcalm podcast together all by myself. We need some sponsorships. JR from West Michigan Technology and Design Solutions has stepped up and offered us website hosting and website support as we launch this program and get more and more episodes out there. So I want to thank JR for not only his friendship, but also providing this wonderful service to the Discover Montcalm podcast. If you want to be a guest on the show, all you have to do is give me a call at 231-250-9624. We do have two packages. One, we bring you into the studio here and we talk to you about what your projects and what your programs and what your services and everything that you offer. But more importantly, we offer another package that brings us into your location. What better way to show off what you do than at your location, where we can actually do a walking tour of what you provide and the services that you offer. It's very important to me that the people in Carson City knows what's happening in Howard City, and the people in Howard City knows what's happening in Carson City and everything else around our wonderful county. In episode number 5, we went to Trufant and we talked to Coffee by John. John is a young man that is really working hard at putting out a lot of really good tasting coffees. And we kind of took a look at how he got started, his process, and here's a highlight from episode number 5 with Coffee by John. How did you go about picking out what types of coffee bean you were going to use for your different roasts?
So I kind of fell on it for the first handful of months of learning how to roast and just doing it for myself. I was playing with different origins, meaning different countries where they were coming from, getting them in small bags as far as the raw product. Then when I decided to start Coffee by John, mainly as a Facebook, Instagram thing, I wanted to solidify just 1 or 2 different origins. I started with the Brazil, not only from a price point standpoint, but also it was just the quality bean that everybody seemed to enjoy. Then, as I like to experiment over time, I brought in the Indonesian bean as well. What was supposed to be a limited time thing, people enjoyed it, so I kind of kept it around. And I still enjoy experimenting with other countries when I have the chance, because I just like experimenting and trying new things.
Why would someone want to discover Montcalm County?
As I've only been in the area for about 1.5 years or so, now almost going on 2 years, and coming from Oceana County, it's very similar as far as the small town feel. As if anybody's been to Trufant, they know we have a stop sign and the main part and a couple of restaurants and some of the really good restaurants there. As I traveled to the Trufant Flea Market, I was blown away how big it was and how supportive people were. And that really caught my eye, and it's the reason why I continue to go back and do the Trufant Flea Market or do stuff at the Wildflower Schoolhouse, is because of that support and just overall nice people. And we have a lot to offer here in the county, and I'm still discovering it myself as life gets in the way sometimes, and you're always work. But as I get out and travel and find parts of the North Country Trail or the bike trails in here in town and everything else that's going on, kind of blew me away. What's actually going on, what's unique, what other small businesses are popping up along the way.
This next episode, episode number 6, I had the opportunity to interview Margaret Krebs. Margaret wrote a book called 100 Years of Change in the Trufant and Howard City area. How often are you able to talk to somebody that has been around for that long? Going back and grabbing some of that history of what it was like, some of the stories that she told. You know, that's a touch on the history. And that's one of the things that we want to do here at Discover Montcalm Podcast, is talk about the history of everything within our county. Not only the businesses and the industries and the organizations, but let's touch on a little bit of the history. So in episode number 6, here's Margaret Krebs.
We had to walk 2 miles to go to school, and you had to make your own lunch. And everybody had to make their own lunches. And actually, we saved all the wax paper from cereals, because you couldn't buy wax paper to wrap the sandwiches in, and that was hard business. You didn't eat very well.
You then went off to college, and I guess it was a pretty big deal because
It was terrible, because Mother and Dad said, well, we can't help you at all. There's just no way we can. But I got a scholarship from Reader's Digest for my tuition, and I just, of course, I was pretty naive about living, and I thought, well, I'm going to try it, and if I fail, I fail.
today in 2022, we're at the leading edge of technology. What do you like about technology that as you were growing up that you went, I'm glad?
I just think what a gift it would be for my mother to see that you had a refrigerator, that you had running water, and you had, like she had the wash on an old scrub board, and think how easy all those things are for you. But you think that your life, because of the technology, has made your life so much easier.
Why Discover Montcalm? You can help with this. Get with me. Let's tell your story on why you're here, the purpose of your business, the purpose of your organization, and let's share it with the entire county, the entire state, and because it's on iTunes and Google Podcast, the entire world. What is going on here in Montcalm County? Going to jump back to episode 1. Phil has a couple more questions for me. Wonder what he's going to ask.
And the irony about this is, this could be the first and only Montcalm County focused podcast, but who knows what Duane will uncover during his discovering of Montcalm County. You may discover some other podcasters who could end up being on this podcast.
I would love it.
Which would be a fun and unique twist on the irony of podcasts.
Share the golden nuggets that we have within our county. That's very important to me.
Who knows who you might uncover who has an amazing story to tell, or maybe has been keeping an amazing story for years that only their family knew. We're certainly looking forward to it, and I've been honored to be able to sit in his chair for the rest of the episodes of the Discover Montcalm podcast. Even if you don't know where to find a podcast, start on the webpage, discovermontcalmpodcast.com, and you'll get everything you need to know from there, including how to contact Duane so you can be on a future episode.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Discover Montcalm podcast, where we just showed you a highlight of some of the episodes that we've done in the past. My goal here is to cover the communities, the businesses, the attractions, and the people that make up this county. reach out to me, 231-250-9624, or go to discovermontcalmpodcast.com and check us out. We're also on Facebook and YouTube at Discover Montcalm Podcast. Check us out, interact with us. Let me know if there's any stories that you know of that we could follow up on. And in closing, remember to buy and shop locally. Thank you.
Connect and subscribe to Discover Montcalm Podcast at discovermontcalmpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Discover Montcalm Podcast. To be featured in an upcoming show, contact Duane at 231-250-9624. Remember to subscribe at discovermontcalmpodcast.com.